and welcome. I am Ladi Akiri. Tonight, INEC declares candidate of the PDP Nyesom Wike winner of the Rivers State governorship election. National Judicial Council concludes hearing on petitions against suspended CJN and acting CJN and writes the President on decisions reached. Chief of Army Staff seeks increased funding for the Army to fight insurgency and other internal security operations. An Algerian President, Bouteflika, steps down after 20 years in power.
And on business news tonight, International Monetary Fund says Nigeria's economy is growing too slowly, calls for revenue-based consolidation and unified Naira rate.
On sports news tonight, league management company punishes Katsina United for denying visiting teams access to stadium for pre-match training session.
And from Abuja, NEMA receives another batch of 132 Nigerians stranded in Libya 24 hours after 180 of them returned to the country.
After a long-drawn electoral battle, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has been re-elected for another 4-year term. In the results announced by INEC's returning officer, Professor Teddy Adias, Mr. Wike, the PDP candidate, polled 886,264 votes to defeat his closest rival, Awara Biokpamabo of the AAC, who scored 173,859 votes. The announcement marks the conclusion of the Rivers State governorship election of March the 9th, 2019.
Awara Biokpamabo, male of the AAC, scored 173,859. 173,859. Nyesom Wike, male of PDP, polled 886,264. 886,264. 886,264. That I this day confirm again that I'm the returning officer for this election, and that Nyesom Wike is of the PDP, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared winner and is returned elected.
The race to occupy the Rivers State Government House for the next 4 years has been trailed with reports of tension as well as controversy. Our correspondent, Emmanuel Erei, tracks the story behind the eventual winner emerging today.
The Rivers State governorship race has undoubtedly been a tough journey. Tension-soaked and full of drama, if you like. In the eyes of many, the intrigues may have somewhat overshadowed the very contest itself. After the APC failed to get on the ballot, it did look on face value that incumbent Governor Nyesom Wike was going to have a free ride in the 2019 governorship election. But that was not to be, as his kinsman and former governor of the state, Rotimi Amechi, and his faction of the APC were, from the look of things, not going to back down. As his faction of the party reportedly throws weight behind the AAC and its candidates, raising the stakes in the contest once more. With many alleging militarization of the polls in the state, forcing the suspension of the electoral processes by INEC, then protests from different groups, with many calling for the announcement of the governorship results. As the exercise approaches home stretch, it's some drama and tension again at some point after the resumption of collation of results.
14938.
And then after results from 21 local government areas, according to INEC's declaration, the governor is returned.
Nyesom, Wike, of the PDP, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared winner and is returned elected.
Now that the winner of the governorship seat has been decided, the people of Rivers State may now heave a sigh of relief and look forward to the next phase of development by the governor-elect. Emmanuel Ere, Channels Television News.
Celebrations in the meantime have broken out on the streets of Port Harcourt, the River State capital, following the declaration of Governor Nyesom Wike as the governor-elect for the second time. Hundreds of residents were seen jubilating as they drove along the roads, while at the governor's home, party officials and political leaders also gathered to celebrate. Governor Wike, who was emotional at some point, dedicated his victory to God and those who lost their lives in the polls.
Those who risked their life, those who died for the interests of our state, I don't need to be a governor for me to die. I don't need it. It's unfortunate that people from this state want to kill their own people because of power. I say I leave everything to God. God, you're the one who knows everything. Let everything be a domain. But this victory must be dedicated to Almighty God and to those who died for us to be here today.
Newly re-elected Governor Nyesom Wike. Now we can go to Port Harcourt Live, where political correspondent Sheon Okimbaloye has been all week covering this supplementary election. Sheon, what is the very latest?
Laddie, it's been some very interesting past 3 weeks for the people of Rivers State. This is one process that they've been waiting, looking ahead to see that it comes to an end, and at last this has come to an end, and in the manner in which it has come to an end is such that having the incumbent governor Nyesom Wike, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, re-elected for a second term in office. And so what this means altogether is that whatever the grievances of the opposition party, that will be a redress they might have to seek in the court of law. But basically what we've seen so far today is some jubilation on the streets of Port Harcourt, the River State capital. As soon as the announcement of the election and the declaration was made that Nyesom Wike won the election, it was some jubilation, though what happened was that the INEC office and the perimeter around that place was cordoned off, so some of the jubilant supporters of the PDP and those who are supporting Nyesom Wike, the governor, they were not allowed to come close to the venue or the premises of INEC because that have been cordoned off for the past few days. It's being a heavy security presence in and around town, especially about half of the kilometer of road which passed through the INEC head office in Port Harcourt. Don't forget, Ladi, that about 21 local government results were announced and returned today out of the 23 local government areas. In some 2 local government areas in the state, elections were said not to have held when election held on the 9th of March 2019. So it was only River State where we had elections suspended. Out of the 7 states where elections were not concluded, 6 were declared inconclusive. River State was suspended, but today the election has come to an end. It does look like the governorship election had overshadowed the other elections. There are other elections such as the senatorial, the National Assembly election, the senatorial elections, and the House of Representatives election, as well as also the House of Assembly elections. Most of those have also been turned in. What will happen in the 2 other local government areas where the House of Assembly election will be conducted? I guess INEC will announce the procedure in concluding those elections in those areas. But so far, it has been some peaceful process of announcing and declaring the collation of the results for the River State, following some of the interesting incidents that we have seen in the run-up to this process. Also, there was some scenario which, of course, our viewers are able to see, where we saw some drama play out, a situation where we saw some of the party agents saying that they were not allowed entry into the collation center. At some point also, we saw that an alleged impostor agent was led out of the premises. But by and large, we have come to an end of the River State governorship election, and Nyesom Wike has been declared again for a 2nd term. Ladi, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Sheon Okimbaloye from the River State capital, Port Harcourt, this evening. And now to judicial matters. The suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen, has closed his case at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The counsel to the suspended Chief Justice, Mr. Chris Uche, told the tribunal that having looked at the evidence and testimony before the panel, the defense has resolved to close its case and will be applying to file its final address. He informed the tribunal that the defense will be asking for 14 days to file the written address. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafo, reports.
At the last proceedings in the trial of the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, on charges of false declaration of assets and non-declaration of assets, the suspended Chief Justice had asked for an order to subpoena a witness who is a director with the Code of Conduct Bureau in Benin. The trial was then adjourned to Wednesday to enable the witness appear before the tribunal, but in a twist, Justice Onnoghen has decided to close his case. His counsel, Chris Uche, informed the tribunal that having looked at all the evidence and testimonies before the tribunal, the defense has concluded to close its case and will be asking for 14 days to file a written address. The prosecutor, Aliyu Umar, said that even though the defense had told him they will be asking for 14 days, the practice direction of the tribunal did not make any specific time provision for a final address, and so it is at the discretion of the tribunal. He, however, agreed that parties need enough time to be able to put together their final addresses, and that whatever time is given to the defense, the same amount of time should be given to the prosecution. The tribunal resolved to give 3 working days to the defense to file its written address, while the prosecution will also get the same amount of days, and thereafter the tribunal will fix a date for ruling on pending applications and the judgment.
He came to the conclusion that we should close our case at this point, that no case whatsoever has been disclosed as we said in our no case submission, and then having the benefit of calling a witness who has established what we think is relevant for our defense, we think it's sufficient for the case.
What I'm happy about is that neither the prosecution nor the defense has delayed this matter. We behave as real officers of the tribunal.
The tribunal has adjourned to the 15th of April 2019 when parties in the suit will adopt their final addresses and a date for judgment and ruling on the 4 applications before the tribunal will be set. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the National Judicial Council has decided against considering allegations of misconduct leveled against the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, as well as the acting Chief Justice, Ibrahim Mohammed. This decision was taken today at an emergency meeting reconvened to consider the report of the 5-man committee constituted to investigate the allegations. The statement from the NJC Director of Information, Mr. Soji Oye, says the council, however, reached a decision on the petitions written by the EFCC and others and has conveyed its decision to the President. In part 2, after the break, President Buhari says those behind the killing of Kolade Johnson at a football viewing center in Lagos will not go unpunished. Please stay with us.